Good morning, Michael. Nice to see you again. So, in the next in our series of short conversations, you often talk about the agile piece of toast. In the work we do with leadership teams and culture change and transformation, we often play that concept through. Can you give us a brief explanation of what on earth it means, though?
Sure. Well, when organizations are learning and evolving, one of the most important things is that you put the people and the teams at the front of that process rather than tell them how they're going to be changed. And that sort of comes from this Peter Senge quote is people don't resist change, they resist being changed. So the concept of an agile piece of toast is that rather than spreading what limited butter and jam that you have, because there's always limited resource in an organization to effect change across the whole piece where no one gets a real experience of it, you put that butter and that jam on one small corner of the piece of toast. And you can actually put it on in multiple places in small amounts, so you give different teams a different taste. But the whole point is that you give them a real sense of, okay, we've tried it, we liked it, we're going to continue to do it, and you create these centers of success. Some of them will fail, and because you haven't bet the whole loaf on that process, you've just given them a slice, a corner, you haven't wasted a lot of money in driving something that culture of your organization won't accept. And as importantly, you haven't bet the farm on the process and put every single penny you have in budgetary terms into trying to change the organization that you later find out is not an acceptable route for them to change.
Okay, gotcha. Right, okay. So I was going to replay that to make sure I'm understanding it then. So as you're saying then, if an organization is changing, if it tries to do it in too big a scale and too wholesale, there's a risk in a number of areas. One, taking that analogy of betting the company, that's your whole loaf of bread. If you put your whole loaf of bread on the line and it doesn't work, you're in trouble. You've got nothing to eat. Whereas if you take a slice of bread and toast it, that's a limited scope. It's small in scale. It provides for ownership by the people or person involved in eating that piece of toast. And to your point about the Peter Senge quote, people don't like being changed, but they don't mind change per se. But by owning the change, as in putting their own butter on, their own flora spread, their own types of jam, marmalade, or even Marmite, they're owning it, and it's quick. So that is where you're using that analogy, and now I get it much better.
And just to add to that, if I can briefly, it's the difference between pushing people towards a change and then pulling them towards something that they like because they've seen it work, the success factor.
Yeah. Indeed, that's the key piece. So this is then about people actually owning and creating the change.
Absolutely right.
Got it. So by extending that agile piece of toast analogy, what kind of learning do people get from that as an experience?
Sure, and I think it's the learning organization, not to get too theoretical, but that's what we're all aiming for, is an organization that learns and becomes wiser, and wisdom becomes part of the culture. And it allows organizations to try all sorts of different models and approaches and ideas. And in doing that, they learn what does and doesn't work for them, not what does and doesn't work for others.
Yeah.
And that is the key, I think, to this whole concept, is that you're giving people the opportunity to fail because they can fail in a small way, or you're giving them an opportunity to succeed, and then they can succeed in a slightly bigger way and go on and build on that.
Yeah.
Equally, if people are unsure, then others can at some point pick up where they left off and try it again. The whole point about this is that the organization has its own experience. The culture of the organization develops and evolves around this idea of learning as you go.
Yeah.
And that is a very powerful methodology for affecting change in organizations.
Got it. So we're keeping it small, we're keeping it localized, we're keeping it quick, we're keeping it cost effective, and we're making sure that the ownership is in the hands of the people that are doing and experiencing and have to be part of that pathway.
Great summary.
That's great. Well, listen, that's a cracking little analogy. I think we should use that more widely, and I hope for all our listeners that is a useful little introduction to them.
Great.
If you'd just like to close us off, Michael, I think we can say thank you and good night.
Okay. The last thing I would say about the whole of this is people go towards something that is excellent, i.e. they get pulled by excellence, and that's always so much better than being pushed towards something. And that's what this is all about.
That's perfect. Michael, thanks very much for your insights.
Thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure.